Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. It is a great honor and my pleasure to tell you some stories, some really funny details which made this happen. To begin with, this is a concept of traditional opera house. So the architect was sent to study 3 opera houses in Central Europe, Vienna, Prague, and Budapest, and fell in love with the Budapest Opera House with some similar windows. I think the windows, the vaulted windows, caught the eye of the architect. So he made an interpretation, adaptation for this opera house, a performance hall. And the only trouble he had that he wanted all the windows on the facade. But we have here air conditioning. From Europe, I never cared for air conditioning. We didn't have, so why you care for something you don't have? But here, especially in Texas, it is very important to have air conditioning. And this opera building is put in a very small lot, streets limiting the size, so they need to run the air conditioning and some cables through this front wall. And then there were 2 walls with no window, and they had to do something, and as far as I know, that's still a mystery, assistant of the architect in Washington scribbled angels. Some say that there were ideas to put horses or something, Texas associated images, and she scribbled angels. I never got that original drawing, but the air conditioning gave me the chance, ultimately, to do these angels, and I think this is something but once in a lifetime of a sculptor, or maybe in a generation, the sculptors that happens. So this was a wonderful chance for me. I was an unknown sculptor a couple of years ago, arrived to America, and I got a rendering inviting me to submit material because they were looking for an artist who would carve these angels. It was decided that the building has this shape. It was decided that the building would be clad in Texas limestone, this wonderful warm color stone. Just they needed who would do it. So this rendering was sent out, I don't know to how many sculptors. I was the 72nd on the list. And then I got a phone call to come for an interview. So I come to the interview, and I asked, is this what you want on the rendering, or you look for the sculptor who would design the angels? Yes, we want a sculptor. Second question, what is the standard of the cladding stone? What size? They gave me this decorative module, which is the standard in construction. Third question, where can I see this stone? Because I'm not familiar with this stone. So they indicated a couple of buildings. I went around, went home, and I made the criteria was to submit a 2-foot size maquette or model. So I rendered figures, how big. They were tiny little bricks of stone which I cut 19 levels to make up with that module of the cladding stone, the size of the angels. So I submitted that, and while waiting for the decisions, a gentleman, gray hair, about my age, comes in, looks, goes to the next door where another artist was waiting for the presentation, and then the architect, the project manager, and the same gentleman, I was introduced to Mr. Bass, who smiled and said he not only liked my work, but he saw that I knew how to make it. So here is the beginning, and this is what I think is a history of nice coordination of engineering, stone carving, and having enthusiastic professional people to put these angels on the wall that they are still there. So with that sketch approved, I made a work model, which was about life size. You can see in the rehearsal hall, on the hallway, on the turning of the stairs. So that angel is about life size. And of course, this was out of the range of regular sculpture or relief on a building. So everybody was curious how it would work. And they asked me to do something, and actually carpenters were sent from the construction team to my backyard studio in Irvine, California, to build the facade up to the scale, 1:6 scale. And the height of an angel is exactly 6 times normal size, life size. So the facade was built. They even made a mock balcony. And then one morning, before the presentation happened, Ed Best flew with his jet with the team, with the Genting brothers, to see what's going on. I asked my daughter to give me the Barbie dolls, because I figured out in a sleepless moment that Barbie dolls would make Brooke Shields size supermodels lined up on the balcony, proportionate to the model. So they actually built the other side, that building, and Ed Best came and looked at the Barbie dolls, and immediately everybody could see that would be the proportion, and that would be what they see in real life here. And we put a plywood on the floor so he could lay down and rolling around it. It was hilarious. I'm sorry we didn't have a team there to film that scene. So now the working models were approved. And then I built a frame. Again, how you do 19 sections, and it is out of touch to pile them up temporarily and work. So I figured out with some friends of mine who work in the stone industry that we make a frame solid enough to hold 3 levels of the real size stone, and then I could reach and work. And to keep the continuity, when the 3 are carved, we remove the 2 bottom pieces and put the top on the bottom and put other 2 layers. So with that, I could reach each time, and I had something, a reference to keep the lines going on. And of course, to make sure, because here was a moment when really I can understand that everybody is freaking out, that there was one sculptor to do the whole job, and if he gets killed, the stone falls on him, or he loses his mind or runs with the money to Hawaii. So we had to check what the background would be then and who would help. So I went to Italy, and I talked to the most important carving studio. They carved a replica of the David, which is now in the front of the Signoria in Florence, because the original was taken inside the Accademia to be safe from the damage from the passing of time. So this man promised to give me an estimate how much it would cost and who would do it. And in a year and a half later, I received a 5-page letter saying how many hours for 5 or 6 stone carvers to carve the stone, and how much pasta they would eat, and how many square meter, and all these things to make the work. And he says, even if you are the most efficient Rambo of all stone carvers, there's no way that you could do it. I'm not boasting, I'm just illustrating the fact that I'm a sculptor who sees the sculpture in the stone and can relate, and I don't need to measure every point because the stone carvers can copy anything. They can make a David in a couple of months, a Pietà in a couple of months by measuring. But indeed, 6 workers, very skilled people measuring dot by dot. I can see and I can do on my own. So I was doing this work and go back to him and told him that, Carlo, I don't need your help. I was already up to the chest with the angels. And he said, okay, but it will be crooked. There's no way that you could keep the line. So they showed me how crooked they would look without his team. And then that was my real worry. Because the stone was beautiful and easy to carve, really, piece of cake. I enjoyed, from the quarry, I went to the quarry, I studied everything there, and I enjoyed everything, but it couldn't get out of my mind that we pile up 19 layers, and I saw together only 3 at a time. So indeed, how much deviation from the central axis would be. And when the scaffolding reached there, I told the guys, I'm jumping if it is too crooked, not. And it turned out that it is maximum 1.5 inches off the vertical center line. You can see, I cannot see, and that is enough. But luckily, with the help of all these engineers who were absolutely world class, I have to tell you, this is the biggest deal that these angels are on the wall and stay there. Carving is nothing to the problem to make them stick on the wall and be there. CDC is the name, Curtain Wall Design. They are now based in Dallas. So they were the ones who figured out how to put the stone. Each angel is 105 tons. And there's no way, no stone which would hold piled up that weight without giving away and breaking down. So the criteria was to make it worse, the angels are gradually coming forward. Now these engineers figured out how to make, and we have pictures because they figured out how to do to stay on the wall. But the collaboration was the architect came to see me every month to check on me, everybody, but these engineers never made it. I don't know why. They were not sent there. They were not paid to do. And I still not understand. I had to give them drawings, pictures, and we spoke on the phone. So when I was asked the collaboration with them, I said, imagine, you are driving blindfolded. That was them. And the one who gives instructions, what to do, which turn and how to drive, cannot drive and has my accent. And they did wonderful. And they were coming every time. Each stone is attached separately on the wall. No 1 pound of weight downloaded from the upper to the down. It's amazing. And they kept the 5/8 gap all the way through consistently. It's a miracle. You should have seen these stone masons, seasoned welders, stone masons, really great team working here, and we needed to put up the head, which is skipping 1 module, so it is 2 times the module. I didn't want to have the cut right under the nose. So the heads are twice big and the upper arm. And they are put in a special way on 3 clips. And there was no room for rehearsal. Those clips were carved stainless steel, not welding, and then welded to the embedded steel plates. The building was designed already to have embedded steel plates where the weldings would hold the anchors and angles holding the stone. But the head and the two upper arms, this draped arm, were, and that is 15 tons, one upper arm, individually on clips. And there was no rehearsal. So we had star welders. I never knew that there's such thing. And these seasoned guys were working with awe, and it was like a volcano, the sparkles flying twice the size of their generator, which they used to weld every piece, and they put already all the angel pieces up, and then they were watching and admiring these guys, two welders, working day and night. And these guys, the masons, reached in their pocket and tipped and invited for dinner and honored, like these two were like Hollywood stars, disguised in welding equipment. It was amazing. So many great professionals working. The other issue was the trumpet. The original drawing had a concept with the angel holding both hands on the trumpet and a banner. I said, no way. I don't do that. So this was an argument, serious enough. I wanted to have the angel's face visible. So my first sketch showed angel holding the trumpet close to the face, but not in the mouth. So the mouthpiece of the trumpet, it was a whole issue. All musicians in town were asked, interviewed, what an angel trumpet would look like. And none of them saw such a thing. And ultimately, I had my way to have the very tiny little mouthpiece. But it still is a long trumpet, and reaching out, I think the tip of the fingers is for 13 feet away from the wall. There is an engineering bravura again, attach the 8-foot arm to the upper arm and have a tendon. That was my biggest challenge, to carve this arm, 8 foot, with a hole already drilled so it would not come halfway out. And that tendon holds the trumpet, and it has a ring inside the palm. If you now know, you can see it. Otherwise, you won't see. So the trumpet goes through that ring, preventing the pressure or any touch of the trumpet on the fingers. The fingers are in the air. Angels can get away with anything. They can fly, they can hold the trumpet, it's okay. And in the same time, this is a lightning rod. The trumpet has that steel bar inside, and I had to drill through the mouth, all the way through the head, and that goes grounded to the ground, so it is a lightning rod. You remember that pictures which circled in the internet with the lightning coming right above the angels? The architect put on his cover of his book, that picture. It was a really well known. I got, I don't know how many emails with that image from all my friends from Hungary to California. Everybody was sending me that image. So that was a good idea, and I think angels have some magic, because you remember the tornado ripping buildings around here, and they are still there. So I'm still calling whenever I hear the hard weather in Texas, if they are still safe. So please now ask questions. I think there are so many questions you would like to tell people, and I'm here to help you. Yes?
Where else in America do we have something similar?
Like angels?
Anywhere? Well, even a single statue that's 48 feet high.
I don't know.
There isn't one, is there?
I don't know. They said that this is a Guinness Book record. I didn't care. I was freaking out to do it, so I didn't care how big or whatever is the biggest or not. It was a fantastic job. It was the best time in my life. It is 3 years of my life devoted uniquely, besides my family, and they were helping me. By the way, family, I got questions, whose face is the angel's? And this is what I want to make a point. Of course, members of my family. But that is a natural thing. Well, I love my family. I have 2 daughters, and a beautiful, intelligent mother. And somehow their features come back in my portraits of sculptures, not only the angels. And this was known to us because Rembrandt, whenever made a portrait of known people, totally different features, still is recognizable something of his features. And the most evident is, well, I'm using big comparisons. I'm sorry, I'm not a lack of modesty, but you would understand that this is really the standard. Art historian, a woman, render figures. Only women have that sensitive way of thinking. Why the Mona Lisa? There were libraries of books written about the smile and the mystery, and she was very pragmatic, at the same time measuring with computer all the proportions of the height, width, and details of the face. And we know a very good self-portrait of an elder Leonardo from the same view, frontal view. So she was smart and putting together these details, staying, it was really a revelation for art historians. It is a female self-portrait of Leonardo da Vinci. And it is true. If you look at his angels with the Madonna in the cave or the Visitation, faces are somehow similar, coming to the same proportions and features. Of course, and that was him. So each artist has, I think it is growing up with us, is as much voluntary or involuntarily happening that you are used and the most familiar features return in your work. So it is indeed, but I studied many faces, beautiful women. There was a beautiful ballerina who happened to be Hungarian, Maria Theresia Balog, and she had a beautiful forehead. That was also included, and many details. Of course, it is looking overall like my daughter, or she looks very much like my mother. So that's a personal, but anyway, inevitable thing to do. Yes?
The very start of your work until they were installed here, how long was that? How long of a period was that?
There was some noise out there, I didn't hear. So how long I lasted the work?
How long did it take from start of your work until they were installed here?
Well, the whole process was 3 years. It was selection of who would be invited for the competition, then the competition, and then negotiating, because my proposal was not this shape like is now. I had a much more dynamic angel in my mind with some stones coming out. I like to carve things like something is left of the original stone and the figure, mostly draped figures, female figures, emerging gloriously out of the stone, of the restriction of the stone, or coming through the wall. I have a wall relief in Hungary. And I wanted to do something more dynamic, and they insisted that I should do more settled. And that was 1 year, and the 2 years to make when everything was already decided. And so I don't know. People ask how it happened, but I don't know. I was just in a trance and doing. It was such a tremendous, intense time in my life, and it is here. And I'm happy to see them still in place and beautifully maintained. I have to say that these are as fresh, as beautiful as they were. This material is a relatively soft limestone, but weathers very well, and with the sealers, which is reapplied, and they are washed, and the sealer reapplied, they look like finished yesterday, like brand new. Yes?
So you already knew when you started
Yes?
on this that there were going to be angels. That decision had already been made.
Yes, it was, as I said, a rendering already showed the two angels on the wall, so it had to be angel. And I happened to had already some angel sculptures.
Prior to this project, had you been to Texas before, and what was your first impression of Texas when you got here?
It's a very nice question, and I have to make a point of this. Actually, I had two sculptures in Dallas, and that led to this invitation for the competition. Shortly after I moved here, I got a commission from Texas to carve two 12-feet tall sculptures for the entrance of the Plaza of the America, two buildings to the two entrances of the towers. And it happened that the shop drawings were made in one of those buildings, and when the bosses were looking for the sculptor who to consider to invite to a competition, were notified that there were sculptures there and they should put me on the list. And so I had already several trips to Texas and acquainted a couple of sculptors and artists in Dallas. But when I came here, so I'm come from California, I come here and it was so refreshing. These people were real people. Nobody was pretending more, maybe pushing or grandstanding to demonstrate who they were to me. I didn't care for that, but the people I worked with, from the quarry to the masons, to all the people building the building, real people, wonderful people. So nobody pretending, nobody, they were the friendliest. It is a refreshing thing, especially after California. I was really so happy. I spent 7 months in this state. 2 are down there in the quarry, and the rest here. And the quarrymen, some of them didn't really speak too much English. And they were in pain in the neck because these 2 large blocks were so heavy for their bridge crane that they just put outside, right in the path where they were walking with the remote to carry the blocks up and down to get them sliced and whatever. So they were not even responding to my greeting at the beginning. And I showed up at the morning shift working, and then they went home, and the night shift told them that this sculptor is crazy. He's there all the time, all the length of the day, sundown, until sundown. So in a week, one of the younger guys called with the burrito, offering half of it to me. So we started talking, and they were wonderful people. They respected my working. Same dust on me and working and focused on the work. And I'm very proud that I could earn the respect of the people who helped me, who worked with me. And that is what really comes with respecting each other's work. I loved working in Texas. Yes?
Were there any challenges in using the material of Texas limestone compared to the Carrara stone with your other works?
Well, I worked in Hungary in some local Hungarian travertine as well, so I'm not uniquely using marble. And I was amazed that this stone, and I worked ever since with this stone, was one of the best I could get and work with, honestly, because it was very soft. And there were some soft spots, so we talked to the people in the quarry that we really need the best of it. This is a sediment in the bottom of a lake, so it has different spots, and the quality varies from one to the other. So we got lucky. The Featherlight company really supplied the stone the best, and it was a pleasure to work with that stone, and amazingly, it holds really very well. I have pieces back, leftover pieces. I still use them, and they are like fresh after 20 years. So it is a very good stone, and it has that warm color. I really like the color. Yes?
Do the angels have names?
No,
No?
they are angels. Sorry, you asked.
I know sometimes as artists, we compare like our work to something that we really like enjoy. After you did the angels, your later pieces of art, were you comparing them to this in terms of greatness, or were you like, oh, I want to do something just as great as the angels I did at Bass, or anything like that?
This is a very unique thing, not only for the size, but for the meaning. I have to tell you, as an art student for 6 years, I had a night job at the opera, a local opera, in Transylvania. 2 opera houses in one town, one Hungarian, one Romanian. And I was an extra in both and worked with the lights for the Hungarian opera. So I went every evening to the opera. It was part of my life. So it was really close to my heart, by all means, to work for a building with this importance and purpose to have opera performances, symphony. I think it's really special, but hard to decide which one, because I carved many of these emerging female figures, always. While feminism was not an issue back in Europe, interestingly, I don't know, because my mother had a PhD in psychology, and she was accepted immediately by the old academics and telling her, young lady, are not only beautiful, but very smart. We are happy to have you. And she was a model for me, that women are as powerful and as creative like men. There is no issue of gender. And that's what really made me carve these emerging figures. So the angels, in a way, are in that line, but I have other which were not a subject already given, and I still, it's hard to, it's like you ask a parent which one is your most loved child. You love them all. But this was the most special by all means in my life. It was my first major job in America. It was the largest, as I heard, of its kind, and the whole process, it was really something that I still believe at every moment so vividly, and such a pleasure that I had the chance to do this. Yes?
Do you ever use other materials other than stone? Do you carve like wood or anything like that other than just stone?
Well, actually, I started carving with a pocket knife, firewood, and that was my beginning, working with clay. But coming back, this is an important question. I have a friend, a brain scientist, a very funny guy, looks like Pavarotti. And when I have questions, I always ask him for wisdom. And he explained me that we are born with certain ways of doing things, already wired, as he said. You are left-handed, right-handed. You create a volume by using some malleable material, clay, wax, plasticine, and add and take and mold it and do it. Or you are born with having a block of stone or wood and chipping away. And I was born, luckily, with the chipping away instinct. So that's why I had no problem making larger sculptures without too much measurement. Well, of course, I measure certain details, so I made sure that the pieces match, but it was easy. It comes naturally. I always admire musicians that part of my education was to play an instrument. I played the cello for 2.5 years for my professor. I'm tone deaf. I love music, but I could never tune my cello. But with the stone, that was my thing, that I was born with this, and then I went for that. So is that answering your question?
Yeah, I could just,
I have some wood reliefs and wood sculptures, but somehow I was instinctively attracted from childhood with all the art books in our house, with the Greek sculptures, Egyptian sculptures. I was always attracted more to stone and marble. Yes?
What began your interest in sculpting?
Well, it was shortly after the war. I don't know when the Disney movie about the Pinocchio story was made, but reached Transylvania probably at the end of 40s. So I must have been 5 or 6 years old when I saw in the movie, and I vividly see how Geppetto was carving the face and the eyes popped out. At that moment, I decided I wanted to do that. I told my parents. And we had artwork at home, so my parents were collecting art. And said, you want to be a sculptor? Well, it is a sculptor, then that's what I want to do. And I went for it. It was a very unpractical decision, especially back in a communist country where the only job a sculptor would get to make the glorious Soviet military personnel liberating our country, or the glorious Romanian communist. I didn't ever think that would be a question for me, that I would not do them and what I would do. I just wanted, this is a crazy idea, that I wanted to be a sculptor. And I got lucky. I came to America and I had the chance to make the angel. So no complaints. It was an unpractical decision, but that's what I'm happy that I did. I stuck to it. Yes? More questions? Yes?
Well, do you draw or sketch and paint, or is it just strictly sculpting?
Most of my drawings are gone because I draw on the stone.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have said that I'm not just hitting the stone like that. I have a very elaborate drawing. Sometimes when I don't have a commission, but I have an interesting stone, it is inspiring, so I interact with the stone. But definitely, I make a drawing, I try to figure out, and as I progress with the work, the drawing is coming back. It was already the previous drawing gone, but next, again, I have to come back to keep things in place and proportions under control. So unfortunately, I don't have too many sketches. In the Book of the Angels is some scribbling, naming the numbers of the pieces together, so we know which one is the arm and the head. But not too many drawings. I have 2 sketches for the quarryman, how big the stone and what dimensions should have. But normally I draw most on the stone. That comes naturally and goes naturally away, so it's a good criticism because it is all gone. But I keep some photos of the progress, how it worked on the drawings. Yes?
Did sculpting, your interest in, is that what brought you to America?
Well, I always wanted to come to America. We had relatives here, and my mother was not supposed to even correspond them. And even if she would write letters, would never make it to our aunt. She had a sister in America. So it was like a dream. And it was a medical issue as well with my son's vision, which had no solution, only in America. It was a good coincidence that I got a Fulbright scholarship right when I needed to bring my son to be cured here. I made an exhibition for the American Embassy in Budapest. They built a new cultural facility, and the cultural attaché's wife liked my work, so I was invited. There was a little gallery, semi-privately owned, a couple of artists, not the fashionable ones in the castle, and they did a good job promoting our work. So somehow the American embassy got to know my work, and then I invited the cultural attaché to see my studio back in Debrecen, in the second largest city. So I had the exhibition, and they gave me a formula to fill up to apply for a Fulbright scholarship. So that's how I came here. And I'm very happy to be here. I would never be able to change my accent because I was 45 years old when I came here. So at that time, you cannot lose accent. I talked to Pavarotti, friend of mine, Pavarotti look-alike, and he explained that when you are past your teenage years, all the coordination, all the claps and the wiring of the vocal cords is so solidified that you can. And I listened then to Edward Teller, who was Hungarian, and he came to the inauguration of the Hungarian consulate in Los Angeles. So he gave a nice speech having my accent after 50 years, and he was Edward Teller. And I listened to Georg Scholti in a radio interview. He has been here for 50 years as well, one of the most important music directors in American recent history. And he had my accent. So I said, if these two people, one with the fantastic ear and sensibility, and the other is the one who invented the Star Wars, could not change his accent, then it is indeed like Bela Lugosi. Everybody, when I said from Transylvania, yeah, Dracula. I said, yes, and I have the accent of Bela Lugosi. He could, luckily musicians, we have performers going all over the world, Hungarian musicians and singers, they can sing and play the music. There is no issue with the accent. And for sculptors or painters. Unfortunately, for the actors, it's a catastrophe. They cannot change accent. Yes?
Personally, what is your favorite part of the angel sculptures, or your favorite part of doing them?
I really can't name. Every step was exciting. And I know that when it comes together, it's the most exciting if you reached what you want, and you can never reach what you dream. So it comes as close as it can, but the whole process is exciting. I cannot name any of just this would be fun or more fun than the other.
Any other questions? We have to wrap them up because we have them scheduled to do something else in a few minutes. There are other questions. Otherwise, we thank you so very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.